Hello and welcome to another video. You will have to excuse my voice as I have a bit of a cold, so bear with me. A very highly respected, revered and decorated police sergeant is arrested whilst on duty. What starts to unravel is truly frightening. For today's case, we are in Polokwane in Limpopo, where you will find your Bedi, Venda and Dzonga people up there. My Bantu people up there. Limpopo is the most northern province in South Africa, previously known as its colonial name, Northern Transvaal, later changed in June 1995 to Northern Province, until it was renamed to Limpopo in 2002. Beautiful, beautiful province. And its beauty does not extend to this case that I'm about to talk about because it is some of the worst of humanity. A series of seemingly unconnected deaths started in 2019. Sydney Moncha passed away on October 19th, 2019. Joyce Tsala Malesa on July 5th, 2020. Rachel Kutumela on April 6th, 2021. Ephraim Toshi on August 1st, 2021. Jacob Segamela on September 14th, 2022. And Martin Mantata on April 13th, 2024. These passings included a woman found burned in her shack, a man found in a bin next to a school, a man found next to a dam drowned. Come to find out, these people's passings are not as unconnected as they originally appeared. We'll start with the first person, Sydney Moncha. Sydney was a man who had a mobility impairment and a speech impediment and required caregiving. Sydney had gotten married sometime in 2019, a very happy occasion. A few months into being married, just a few months later, his family reported that he had gone missing. He was found next to the Mashashane Dam on the 19th of October 2019. He has sadly passed away from suspected drowning. Another person is Jacob Segamela. Jacob was found in a dustbin next to OR Maboja Secondary School, and he had passed away on the 14th of September in 2022. There was no sign at first of foul play, according to his sister. The only unusual thing when he was found was what looked to be water streaming from out of his nose. Come to find out that he had been killed and his body had been dumped in the bin, carelessly discarded. Evil. Horrific. Very sad. The night before Jacob's body was discovered, Jacob's younger brother received a phone call. The phone call was informing him that a man and a woman claiming to be from the police had arrived where Jacob was staying, and they were accusing him of committing a crime and that they were there to take him away. The person who was taking care of Jacob tried to put a stop to all of this, but the two people ultimately managed to take Jacob by force. The following day, the news of Jacob's death reached his family. Other passings were Joyce Tsala Malesa, possibly the person and victim found burned in her shack. I know it's horrific, but I'm not certain about the details surrounding her passing, only that she was found burned. She passed on July 5th, 2022. Rachel Kutumela on April 6th, 2021. He was the younger brother of Rachel's husband and he had mental health issues. Ephraim Toshi on August 1st, 2021 and Martin Mantata on April 13th, 2024. I couldn't find out more or the particulars about these people's passings, unfortunately. On the 10th of October 2024, the South African Police Service arrests one of theirs. They arrest Rachel Shokane-Kutumela whilst she was on duty at the Senwabagwana police station. This came as a shock and surprise to many, if not all. The arrest was in connection to the above passings. We'll start with the first victim, Sydney Moncha, the man who was freshly newlywed and was found next to the Mashashane Dam after going missing. Sydney's family member said of the following of how she came to know Rachel. She had met Rachel at Seshego Hospital when her cousin, the deceased man Sydney, when her cousin was at the hospital picking up medication. Sydney had a mobility impairment and a speech impediment and required a level of being cared for. He was living with a disability. They were sitting there when a police van pulled up and Rachel, the police sergeant, called out Sydney's name. They'd met before it appeared, her and Sydney. And everybody got to talking, chatting, and exchanged phone numbers. Their cousin and Rachel exchanged phone numbers. Rachel asked for Sydney's address to come and pay him a visit sometime. She then offered to take them on her Land Cruiser car to where they needed to go in Polokwane. This was for Sydney to withdraw money from his SASSA grant, South African Social Security Agency. And Rachel offered to take them on other errands as well, etc. Very nice and very helpful, you would think. And Rachel even assisted Sydney with their money withdrawal. Rachel then treated them to a delicious lunch after. But Sydney's cousin noted that Rachel kept Sydney's SASSA card, their social security card. After the initial hospital meeting, Rachel then paid them a visit where Sydney was staying, his home. And Rachel revealed to his family that her and Sydney were dating and that he was her boyfriend. And I'm sure they were all for him finding happiness. From that initial interaction and meeting, Rachel came to be in their lives and very much a huge part of Sydney's life. So much so that she took over the role of caring for Sydney from the cousin. She became part of the family, you could say. The cousin generally described her as being a generous person with them, always giving them whatever they asked for, including groceries, Sydney's laundry, taking care of Sydney in general and his family. She would also go on to take the family on outings, very generous deeds. Due to the relationship between Rachel and Sydney becoming and being romantic, the cousin decided to leave as he was being very well cared for, she saw. This was after 3 months of her living with them. Shortly after the cousin had left, Rachel and Sydney got married in 2019, and it was all excitement and happiness, as it should be. But I can't tell you what year they had met in though, because I couldn't find out. Shortly after getting married, a few months into their marriage, Sydney went missing. And as I mentioned before, he was found sadly deceased due to drowning next to a dam. Sydney's family was notified of his passing when he was in the mortuary, and he was put to rest shortly after, with Rachel covering the funeral costs. 2 months after Sydney's passing, Rachel Shokane moved on from that relationship and got married in a very lavish wedding to David Kutumela, hence Rachel Shokane-Kutumela, her last name. And like I said, she got married in a fancy, lavish wedding, and she married into David's family. Speaking of family, David had a younger brother by the name of Navel Kutumela, who was mentally not well. He had mental illness. And Rachel suggested and offered to take Navel in. Sadly, shortly after being taken in, he passed away on the 6th of April, 2021. And I should add that David's older sister was very dubious about Rachel's involvement and proposal in regards to or in terms of taking in Navel. But that didn't seem to faze David Kutumela. Hence, Navel was taken in by the newly married couple. Now we move on to another person. Now remember Jacob Segamela? He was found in a dustbin next to a school. And I'd mentioned that the night before Jacob's body was discovered, Jacob's younger brother had received a phone call, and the phone call was informing Jacob's brother that a man and a woman who had been claiming to be the police had arrived where Jacob was staying, and they were accusing him of committing crimes and that they were there to take him away, and they forcibly did so. And the following day, David's body was found. Well, come to find out that David had an ex-girlfriend, and that girlfriend was a very close sibling of Rachel's. And it was either Rachel's 23-year-old daughter or her 47-year-old sister. I'm not quite sure which one, but I have my suspicions. This sibling had shown up just before Jacob's funeral with Rachel. And she told Jacob's family that she and Jacob were actually married, and that the child she had was his. Jacob was the father of her child, she said. All of this was news to the family, their marriage and the fathering her child part. Rachel and either her sister or daughter, they stated that they wanted to be the ones responsible for putting him to rest, the funeral and everything. But Jacob's family said, no, it's okay, we've got this. We actually have an insurance that we took out to help cover everything, so don't worry about it. And that was that, right? It's important to note that the family knew about Rachel's sibling, but reportedly they did not know about their relationship being romantic, and definitely not about the marriage and child. And they had definitely never met or knew Rachel. And then to have somebody that you've never met coming to you, I don't know, like having all these claims to your loved ones, it would be kind of jarring at best. And that's the third person that Rachel is, at best, tangentially linked to. Well, you might think coincidences happen all the time, but also nothing blatantly nefarious seems to be happening here. This lady's just going around and offering to cover funeral costs for these people. So what gives? Like, why arrest her? Well, we came to find out all these people's passings were part of a well thought out, well crafted, and well orchestrated plan purely for financial gain. A whole different person from the standard police sergeant starts to unravel. The first person, Sydney, the man who had gone missing and was found drowned near a dam, the one who had been in a relationship with Rachel and had gotten married to her. Well, she's suspected of terminating or arranging for Sydney's life to be terminated so she could benefit. She either did it or she had someone end that man, her husband's life. It came out later, after her arrest, that she had taken out life and funeral cover policies in Sydney's name, and she was the sole beneficiary. And it was quite a substantial payout she received from both these policies. All of this without Sydney's family's knowledge. The family has stated they believe she took advantage of them due to their financial situation. It's a family that very much lives on the poverty line. 2 months after Sydney's passing, Rachel got married again to David Kutumela, which we don't want to judge, but like 2 months later? Yeah, so 2 months after Sydney's passing, Rachel got married again to David Kutumela, whom is still her current husband as far as I was able to ascertain. I'd mentioned before that reportedly they had a wedding that was very grand, luxurious, expensive, and that usually means costly. So much so that there was a helicopter hired for the event as part of their nuptials. Now, you may ask, well, now, girl, what's wrong with that? When, if not on your wedding day? Well, it's reported that she hired that helicopter from the insurance proceeds from Sydney's insurance payout. And if you remember Navel Kutumela, her current husband's brother, and how she had insisted on taking him in, and him shortly passing away after they had taken him in, turns out she had taken out insurance policies on him too. That ended up paying out when he passed away as well. There's also Jacob Sigamela, the one that was strong-armed and forcibly taken from his residence by a man and woman claiming to be the police for some mysterious crime he was supposed to have committed. Then he was found in a dustbin next to his school. Rachel had taken out an insurance policy on him too. Remember, this is the man who had been in a relationship with either Rachel's sister or Rachel's daughter. And her and Rachel had shown up just before Jacob's funeral, claiming that her and Jacob were married and had a child together. There was a policy taken out on him too. Jacob's sister claims that Rachel and her relative forged lobola letters, dowry letters, and that they were absolutely flabbergasted when they learned that these women had access to Jacob's private documents and very sensitive documents that enabled them to be able to claim insurance upon his passing. Rachel had also taken out insurance on 3 other people, as far as I think the police can prove right now. As far as we know definitively, Rachel had also taken out insurance on 3 other people, including Joyce, a lady found burned in a shack. Evil. She had taken out insurance policies and funeral covers with various different providers and companies, including Old Mutual, Clientele, Capitec, Standard Bank, APSA, One Life, Hollard, First National Bank, Asupol, etc. She took these insurances out with so many different companies. And evidence reportedly shows she had received 10 million rands collectively in these insurance payouts. She also purchased a fleet of what I consider to be very expensive cars, including a Toyota Land Cruiser that I mentioned before, a BMW, a Mercedes, and 2 Range Rovers, all reportedly paid for in cash, by the way. She registered all these people for insurance and then put in claims after they suddenly passed away. Truly very conniving woman. She had a complete disregard for these people's lives. All these people were either from very disadvantaged, extremely low socioeconomic households, or had disabilities. In other words, they were very vulnerable people, and she took complete advantage of these people. Took advantage of her role in her community and profession as a trustworthy, trusted person and protector, disarming them in order to manipulate these people's circumstances for financial gain, and then eliminate them using her badge as a means in the process. She was somebody who was supposed to be looking out for these people's best interest and keeping them safe. Truly conniving woman. And she's actually said to have been a first responder to the scenes where a lot of the bodies were discovered. Evil. The truly sad part about this, aside from her taking these people's lives, the truly sad part about this is that a lot of these people and their families truly trusted her, considered her a friend. That can be an easy thing to reconcile for them, and that's not even touching on their grief. A week after Sergeant Rachel's arrest, the police also arrested Anna Shokane and Flora Shokane from Mabokelele village. This was on the 17th of October 2024, and it was in connection with this case also. Flora Shokane is Rachel's 23-year-old daughter and is or was a caregiver at an old age home in Pretoria North, and she has 2 children that are 6 and 3 years of age. Whilst Anna Shokane is Rachel's older sister and was a nurse at a Care private hospital in Menlyn. I say was because I'm not quite sure how likely they are to keep their jobs after these kind of arrests and the gravity and nature of the crimes that they are suspected of or accused of. Two of the men in this case were ex-boyfriends of both Anna and Flora. The police completely tied them to the case, including the receiving of large sums of funds from these insurance payouts and money laundering. Anna and Flora are specifically linked to 3 of these people's passings. Flora, in her statement for court arguing for bail, said she's a breadwinner as her children's fathers don't provide, that her being kept in jail is prejudicing her children, and it's negatively affecting her children. Girl, all the victims were somebody's children too, but that didn't seem to matter. But yes, your children are also innocent victims here, as they are probably gonna have to grow up without their mama. It's sad, and I can't imagine their sadness and pain and confusion. The children, that is, the children in this case. Flora's statement, I guess she's trying to garner some empathy and sympathy that was not extended to any of the victims, though. I say I'm finding it hard to have space and capacity for her and all 3 of them, actually, considering the harm and pain and the level of calculation and predation enacted by these women, especially the mastermind of all this, Sergeant Rachel, on each and every single one of the victims. Rachel is scary. This woman was the sole beneficiary for each and every one of the insurance claims. And these human souls were just disposable to her. There's reportedly evidence of them convincing other people to take out insurance policies on other people. I'm sure all of this will be delved into further during the trial. The lack of morality in this whole case is truly frightening. Truly, truly frightening. They are all currently in jail awaiting trial as we speak. Keep them there. the greater public is in danger of them. May justice be served for all those who can no longer speak for themselves, and may Sydney Moncha, Joyce Stella Malesa, Navel Kutumela, Ephraim Toshi, Jacob Sigamela, and Martin Mantata all rest in peace.